Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to our first admitted student event of the season. This is our current student panel. Joining us today are some phenomenal students. Before we officially begin, I love to see where everybody is joining us from. You guys are familiar, many of you are familiar with the drill. So if you can use the Q&A function to specifically type in your location and the degree program from which you are admitted to. We would love to see that. If you're a MS in Climate Finance program, Laura and Peter are especially going to be excited. If you're an MS in Climate program, Siri's going to be pumped. Maybe if you're an MACNS student, Yuluo and Wamuyu would be especially excited. So go ahead and fill in that Q&A and share with us where you're joining us from and the degree program you are accepted to. Awesome. Oh, Leela's in Toronto. Leela, I'm so glad you joined us. Emma, State College, PA. Emma, welcome, welcome. New Delhi, India, welcome. Liberia, welcome, welcome. Mary in New York, Larchmont, not too far. Boston, Massachusetts, representing. Stacy, we love to see Miami. I'm a Floridian, Stacy, so I love to see that representation. Let's see here. We have a dual MS Climate Carbon Management. Very nice. Siri's in the mix. Siri's here to represent our duals. Sarah's in London. Sarah, I'm so glad you're joining us. David's in Paris. Welcome. Live in Eleanor joining from Boston. Jackie's in Westchester. Another State College, PA. Listen, Penn State's represented. Middletown, Connecticut. Rachel, welcome. Catherine, Climate Finance in New York City. Catherine, I'm so glad you're joining today. Alexa, Climate Finance, Denver, Colorado. Lips, another Paris. We've got a couple people. Ooh la la. We got Republic of Korea, Cobble Hill, Brooklyn. Very cool. Guys, this is awesome. Well, welcome. We're so excited that you're here with us today. And again, we're going to have a lot of fun. Another University of Michigan represented. Again, Siri's going to be happy to see Michigan. Go Blue. Martin from Santiago, Chile. Welcome. Guys, okay, we can keep going on and on. Istanbul, Nepal. This is an awesome global community. So welcome, everybody. During this session, this is a fun, casual, current student panel. This is your time to ask any burning questions you might have of current students and their experiences. So feel free to use the chat box during the panel. What's going to happen is I'm going to ask a series of questions of the panelists just to warm up the Zoom, and then once I'm done, we will open it up to general Q&A. I also am asking my colleagues, the one and only Damaris Diaz and Kayla Vogel, if you guys can come off camera, if you are not already, oh no, you're both off camera. There you go. Yeah, you're on camera. Forgive me. And if you just want to give a quick shout out, I know you guys have corresponded with Kayla and Damaris extensively throughout this process. So Kayla and Damaris, if you want to just say something.
I'll start. Hi, everyone. Congratulations and welcome to our current student panel. We're so delighted to welcome you and have you join us in the fall. Of course, you know where to find us if you have any questions, and it's a pleasure to meet you all virtually.
Hi, everybody. Kayla here. Yes, I am also relatively new to the team. I started in January, so maybe you've only started hearing from me since then, but really excited to be here with all of you. Congratulations again, as everyone has said. And we're excited to give you some insight and get some of your questions answered today. So thanks for being here.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. All right, so now we're going to kick off and introduce our students. So as you can see here, we have 5 phenomenal current students representing all of our distinct graduate professional degree programs. I'll just very briefly introduce them by name, and then I'm going to have them share a little bit more about themselves. So joining us right now is Laura Huepenbecker, who is an MS in Climate Finance student that'll be graduating this year. Hard to believe it's a 1-year program. It just starts and then boom, you're good to go. Also joining us is Wamuyu Thoithi, an MA Climate and Society student, also will be graduating this year. Peter Makey of the MS in Climate Finance program, also Yuluo of the MA Climate and Society program, and then Sirui Wang, who is our representative for the MS in Climate program, but also the dual degree. Specifically, Siri will be joining the Carbon Management program with Columbia Engineering this coming fall. So nice representation among the audience. And so what I'd love to do is maybe if we'll start with Laura. Laura, can you share a little bit more about your academic and professional background prior to joining Columbia Climate School, and maybe a little bit more about your what drew you to a climate school program in particular? What is your climate story, as we like to say?
Yes, thank you so much, Alfred. Congratulations, admitted students. It feels like yesterday that I was in your shoes listening to a panel just like this, just a year ago. My undergrad at Boston College was in agricultural ecology and political science, so came from the agriculture science route, turned that into communications and storytelling. I worked for many years for Nat Geo, doing producing TV about regenerative agriculture. Saw a huge gap in my financing knowledge, became curious about the climate finance program, have been here since August, and yeah, every day is blowing my mind. Climate finance is a huge field, so hopefully Peter and I will be able to talk about multiple ends of the climate finance spectrum.
Absolutely. And then I think that's a perfect segue maybe to Peter. Peter, if we could learn a little bit more about your background and experiences prior to joining the climate school.
Yeah. Everyone, super nice to meet you and congratulations. Really exciting position to be in. And for those of you who join the climate school in one of the programs this upcoming fall, you're going to have a really great and enriching experience. Just a bit more about me. I did my undergrad at William and Mary in Virginia, studying government and English, so a little bit more of the humanities and social sciences background. From there, worked in federal consulting, commercial sustainability consulting, and then most recently moved up to New York and was working as part of the sustainability value creation team for a large private equity firm, where I really gained a lot of exposure to both private markets, but also sustainability and climate from a European perspective. Many of those that are dialing in from Europe or from other global markets outside of the US will know that the US is still learning in some ways from some of these other geographies. So that was really great exposure for me. And I think that my professional experience has also sort of informed the way that I think about climate solutions and where I want to double down in the next phase of my career. I had initially thought I was going to be in law school. I actually got accepted into law school and then deferred. And while I was sort of taking that year to really make sure that's where I wanted to play, my theory of change evolved real time. And I started sort of reorienting around this idea that the transition will happen when we have cheaper, better, faster, more resilient, and financeable solutions to climate challenges. And to that question or set of questions, the climate finance program was a pretty clear answer for me. So took a year off from work and have been here in Columbia since the fall. So that's a bit about me.
That's great, Peter. I didn't know about the law school.
I know
Very,
that was
yeah.
such a good answer,
I
Pete.
know.
Nice.
I know. Peter's got like a real art. Peter, you didn't mention you were also like you're an athlete too. Come on.
That's right. I was a gymnast at William and Mary, so shout out to any of the athletes in the room.
Yeah, that's amazing. And if anybody's coming to the admitted student day, I know, I'm sorry, I got to do the plug. Come to Friday, March 13th. You got to come. Evan Moretti, Laura and Peter's peer in the climate finance program, is going to be on that admitted student panel. And Evan was an athlete as well, a diver. So there's this athlete. I'm loving it. I'm just loving it. So, all right. Next up, Wamuyu, we'd love to learn a little bit more about your background and climate story prior to coming to the climate school.
Thanks. Welcome everyone and congrats again. My name is Wamuyu. I'm Kenyan. I saw there's somebody from Kenya in the chat. And I my undergrad was in electrical engineering. I did a couple of internships that I didn't love and including in clean energy power plants. And then I quickly pivoted straight out of undergrad into consulting. And I studied at the University of Cape Town. I saw there's somebody from South Africa as well, and started working there in consulting, kind of, typical consultants. You work on everything. And so I was a generalist for a long time. Then I left consulting the first time and was kind of freelancing, doing independent consulting work. And there I did a lot of clean energy type consulting. So with solar microgrids and with the VCs that are clean energy focused. And then I went back into consulting because I got tired of working for myself. And the second time I started doing a lot of work in regenerative agriculture, especially in East Africa where I'm from. And so somewhere along the way, just felt like climate kept coming up. There was all this talk about like carbon sequestration and rock weathering and all these things that I didn't know about. And I felt like I had a knowledge gap for my kind of work applications. And so I was looking around for short programs because I didn't want to be out of the workforce for more than a year. A mentor of mine is actually the one that told me about Columbia Climate School, and she was like, "Oh, have you heard that Columbia has a climate school?" And I was like, "No, I didn't know that." And that was also part of the draw for me, the fact that there's like a dedicated climate school, because I think a lot of the other universities that I was looking at in the US, it was more like environmental management and topics that were a bit too niche for me. I did want something interdisciplinary, which is how I ended up in the MA Climate and Society. I knew that I didn't want to be hardcore finance. I knew that I didn't want to be hardcore science. I knew that I wanted something that is a bit more, generalist and that I can apply the knowledge in different sectors. So yeah, that's my climate story. After Columbia, I'm hoping to be in like strategy and sustainability roles that are in-house for private sector companies. That's kind of where I think my knowledge and experience would be best applied.
That's a great climate story. And then, Siri, if we could hear a little bit more about your background leading up to the climate school.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for inviting me here today. And first of all, hi everyone. My name is Sirui, and it's really a pleasure to be here. And congratulations to all of you on your admission. So, my background is I originally from China, and I spent my undergrad years in Michigan, Ann Arbor, and after graduation, I just came here directly to the climate school. So, my background or my passion about for the climate basically start from my high school. At the end of the year of my high school, I just went to the North Pole and I saw the glaciers clasping hundreds of meters away from me. That actually freaked me out, and I actually witnessed the evidence of the global warming. So I was thinking, so what I can do, and what I should do, or what kind of role I want to play in the future. And I was thinking about myself, like what I'm truly interested in. Like since I was a kid, I love to watch like documentary, like from BBC, from the National Geographic. So I was asking my high school geography teacher. I was asking him if geography is a good major for me to take as an undergrad. He was telling me maybe because if you want to take that, you have to be prepared for either become a professor or a researcher. Okay, that's not my path. So okay. So what I want to do, maybe climate. People are now talking about like carbon neutral, like neutral or net zero, blah blah blah, and that's kind of important role, and we have witnessed its importance. And maybe that's the part I can combine my personal interest and the future leadership needs. So that's when I decide to like like concentrate it on this track. And later on, as I've done some internships in these fields, I just realized like carbon market maybe or It's a kind of emerging market. I'm quite interested in that. So during my grad studies in international studies and environment at Michigan, I began working on biodiversity and pollution research, particularly examining how legacy contaminants affect river ecosystem. That experience shifted my perspective, and I realized climate isn't just about reducing emissions, it's about redesigning the system, water governance, land use, infrastructure, finance, and institutions. So, since then, I've been working on a nature-based solution, including Pearl muscle-based water purification system, and it's basically a ecosystem carbon sink strategies. What excites me is the most is the intersection between science, finance, and the scalable implementation. And that system level thinking is what ultimately brought me to Columbia Climate School. And a fun fact is, when I applied to climate school, I also applied for carbon management program. But when I applied for both, they haven't like announced a dual degree program between those two programs. So I got really lucky. Once I got into those two programs, and later on they just announced this dual degree program. So wow, what a like this is a good perfect fit for me. So yeah, I'm very lucky then.
Thanks, Siri. Yeah, that's 100% correct. The climate school is always a dynamic space. We're new, we're growing, and dual degree partnerships, just like Suri kind of mentioned, that they sometimes form mid-cycle, and all of a sudden it's a fortuitous opportunity. So I'm so glad that that worked out. And then last but certainly not least, Yulo, if you could share a little bit more about your background and what you drew you to the climate school.
Yes, of course. So, hi everyone, I'm Yuluo and I'm currently in the MA program. Before coming to Columbia, I originally studied economics at the London School of Economics, where I'm originally from Shanghai. And after graduation, I directly come to Columbia Climate School. And during my undergrad, I took courses like environmental economics, carbon accounting, and also participate in a few like sustainability competitions where I learned that like how physical climate risk, for example, like heat stress, drought, and flooding, is reshaping the infrastructure, labor productivity, supply chains, and the long-term economic stabilities. And in terms of my internship, my past experience is mostly in ESG consulting and energy banking, where I worked on carbon risk analysis, financial disclosure framework, and also helped with a few green bond issuance. Where I realized I understand like how the financial mechanisms work, I didn't fully understand like the climate science behind it. So I kind of want to move beyond like surface level sustainability knowledge and actually understand the climate system. And the Climate and Society program is a very interdisciplinary program. It combines like the hard climate science with societal systems, for example, like finance, infrastructure, policy, equity, and I think that system perspective was exactly what I was looking for, and that's what led me here today.
That's excellent. Thank you for that. Another question, and again, I'm so happy the questions are coming in the chat. I'm gonna at some point I'm gonna stop asking, and I want to transition to the Q&A. But another question I have for the audience is around the curriculum, and specifically, I'm we're bringing you all together. You all experience something very specific at the climate school, which is the climate core. The idea that there are core courses across the programs that every single climate school student explores, whether it be climate change mitigation, climate change adaptation, dynamics of climate variability and change. Some of the core courses do vary between programs, but certainly there is a through line where you've all in the fall semester interacted and engaged with each other through these courses. Do you have any specific core courses you wanted to highlight that maybe you found most challenging and maybe you found most rewarding? And I will begin. Sorry, I don't know if I prepped. I don't know if I sent that question to you guys. I'm gonna put maybe I'll put Peter on the spot. Peter, do you have a core course you especially enjoyed?
Yeah, sorry, and I'm pausing just to think. So within the climate finance program, we all take international climate finance, which is very much a like systems-led survey of the global financial architecture, different ways to think about financing mitigation versus thinking about climate risk management. really getting into some of the weeds into a lot of those kind of fundamental questions that exist right now. That's a core course for the MS in Climate Finance program, not necessarily one that everyone else will take, but in terms of pure core courses that everyone will take, Dynamics of Climate Variability and Change is sort of the STEM-oriented core course, and for me, that one was the most challenging.
Dynamics frequently comes up. Anybody else want to maybe come off mic and share which core course they've most enjoyed or maybe found most challenging? Go
Hey,
for it,
go there.
Wamuyu. Oh, sorry. You know
Yeah,
what? We'll go with Siri. Go for it, and then we'll continue.
absolutely. So I will agree with Peter and the dynamic courses. Um, Initially you can feel like this course is simple, easy, because it's more like a geography classes back in high school. But later on, you will just realize you haven't thought about this, you haven't thought about that, you don't know this. So you have to be very careful and actually listening to the lecture. Otherwise, you might just lost. So there are a bunch of stuff to learn from that class, and it's quite challenging. It's not that challenging, uh, but yeah, it will basically provide a basic understanding for the climate dynamic for you, like to let you know how different kind of climate event works, how it happened, and what kind of event we can expect in the future. So that would be a like super exciting courses for you.
Wamuyu, how about a course that maybe you'd want to highlight?
Yeah, I was gonna say a course that I loved is Climate Justice, which is a core course for, I think, the MA and the MS. I don't know that the finance people do it. Um, highly, highly, highly recommend. I don't know if it's available to the finance people even as an elective, but it's such a good course. The professor is excellent. I think we just oftentimes don't think about the like justice elements of climate, or like we know it implicitly, but don't really know how to think about it. So that was really good for me. I think it was really real. There was a lot of case studies specifically from um, the US, which I found powerful because the US is, an advanced economy, and sometimes we forget about some of the justice challenges. So that was great. And of course, there was other case studies as well from like the Philippines and other markets. But yeah, I really think climate justice for me was a highlight. Maybe my favorite course last semester, actually.
Sheila Foster's amazing,
I
Wamuyu.
know,
Yes.
send her the clip.
Yes, yes, I will. Just a little snapshot, an appreciation of Professor Sheila Foster. And in fact, if we could, Damaris or Kayla, if you could copy and paste in the chat the courses that were highlighted. Peter highlighted a course taught by Professor Lisa Sachs. Um, uh, uh, Siri highlighted a course taught by Professor Mingfang Cheng, and then Wamuyu highlighted a course taught by Professor Sheila Foster. Laura, I'd love to hear a course that you want to highlight. Or it could be another, it could be the same course, different angle, by all means.
Yeah, no, I would echoing these are all amazing classes, just a slightly different take, if that's okay, that the sequencing of the program is amazing. Your first semester here is climate change 101, or like more like 401. It's weather changes, equity, policy, finance. It is everything. Climate change is infused in every aspect of our day-to-day life. So you have an opportunity to sit back, take it all in, and then really find what really interests you and what gets you going by the time it's spring and summer semester. So you think that you know climate change, and then you just peel back the onion and it will never ever end. So I really like how the program is designed across the year.
Awesome, thanks, Laura. And then Yulo, I'd love to hear your take.
Yes, I was also gonna say dynamics course, but I think there's also a course for this semester, which is quantitative methods for climate applications. It's a very applied course. We work directly with like climate data sets in R, like analyze trends, extremes, and projections, and think carefully about uncertainty. For me, that was important because it kind of moved climate from something conceptual, which we learned last semester, to something like measurable and data driven.
Excellent example. Data's king. Data's king in all of our lives. How we make use of it, make decisions based off of it. Absolutely. Um, I'm going to now make a pivot. I think we are getting some great questions in the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and pivot over to the Q&A, and I'll do. Let's see here. Is there a specific are you guys looking at the Q&A too? I should ask you. Yeah, is there a question that you think is especially compelling? Feel free to come off mic if anybody's like, there's a question I see. I'm being super cash here. You seeing this? Okay, so how about we do well, I like this question. Is there anything that you'd want to change in the MA Climate Society? Wamuyu, do you have any, I mean, is there any, like an evolution, so to speak?
Yeah, I saw that question and I really didn't know. Like, I would have loved to sleep on it. Maybe the only thing I would say is, and I'm speaking to the fall semester specifically because we only just started the spring. As Laura mentioned, there's a lot of foundational courses in the fall, which are extremely important. I think sometimes there was a lot of overlap across different topics. And so, you're learning this thing in this course and this thing in this course and this thing in this course. And there's a lot of similarities, but the order in which you learn it is different. And so for me personally, sometimes there's a bit of context switching, but that is not necessarily a bad thing. I actually think it might like reinforce the knowledge because something that you learned in one course 3 weeks ago is now coming up in another course, a couple weeks later. So I don't know that it's necessarily a bad thing. I think maybe just like if there was some more clear connections across the different courses up front would be maybe the only thing that I would say. And that's kind of being a bit nitpicky.
But
Yeah, I don't have.
thoughtful.
I'll think
Yeah.
about it and I'll type in the
No,
chat if I think about it.
no, and
Yeah, maybe Yulo. Yeah.
what I also want to just, if I could just add, I've been at the climate school since 2022. Every single year, student feedback is taken very seriously, and I've seen wonderful evolutions in the programs as a result of it. So, just throwing that out there, it's a definitely it's a good thing. We appreciate feedback and become better for it. I do see a question from Ian asking specifically about climate finance. So maybe I'll pivot over to Laura and Peter, hearing more about the applied experience. So I know that, and by the way, I just want to cushion everybody, like, the summer semester, climate finance has an opportunity to either explore a capstone or an internship. It's a little soon, I think, but I'll leave it to Laura and Peter to share maybe if they do have a summer plan or what they're thinking for the summer. Again, acknowledging it's a little soon, but I'd really like to focus on kind of the professional development opportunities that you've been experiencing while in the program. I know climate finance has a variety of speakers that speaks to the students. Um, uh, Laura and Peter, I know that you're both very much engaged in the program and at the climate school. If you could just speak to any of kind of maybe applied experiences or professional development opportunities specific to that program, we'd love to hear it.
Cool. I'll kick off. Laura, you can add in.
The
Thank you.
Um,
climate fund, the climate fund. You see, I'm
Yep.
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm I'm thinking about this in a few different ways. One of which is kind of like the in thematic opportunities that exist adjacent to or outside of the climate school at Columbia. One of the great things about Columbia in general is that you have access to a broad network of not only practitioners but organizations that are doing really cool things at Columbia. I'm part of the Columbia Climate Fund, which is a student-run climate tech VC, and we're very much trying to emulate the venture capital model and experience for the members that we've got, and trying to sort of take the institutional best practices and distill them down and make them fit for purpose for a smaller student-led kind of impact-focused organization. So that's been really, really a rewarding experience to be a part of thus far, and has been a cool way to get connected with the New York climate tech and more broadly, like New England climate tech universe. We were up at Yale for a clean energy symposium. Columbia has its own like series, in fact, of symposiums related to sustainability and climate, but then professional networking opportunities as well with funds and founders and other folks in the space across the city. So that's one example. The other that comes to mind are skill seminars that are not climate finance specific, but I've gone to a couple of really great skills seminars that are. And these are sort of curated by the career management team, but also folks will bring in and invite practitioners that are in the space actively today. And sometimes they can, provide an hour and a half. We had one on impact investing in the fall. That was amazing. We just had a more recent one on financing renewable energy. That was amazing. So there are certainly like immediately relevant, applicable opportunities to just do some of the more like pragmatic upskilling alongside your coursework in the program.
Excellent, Peter. Laura, do you have anything you want to add to that? Maybe no pressure.
Yeah, yeah, that was a great response, Peter. I would just two things I would add. The faculty and the networks is the most rewarding aspect of the program for me. It's the faculty want this program, all programs, but they want it to succeed more than anything. They'll connect you with anyone in their network. If you are interested in people that you might be able to be connected to while you're at Columbia, look at like Bruce Usher or Lisa Sachs's LinkedIn page, look through their connections and know that you'll have an open door to any of those people. The other thing is the intra network, like within the climate finance program. There's 50 of us and every kid has a different angle. If they want to be in private, if they want to be a foundation, if they want to be at a development, like multilateral bank. So also this program attracts really smart people with amazing backgrounds themselves. So you have both like the faculty and then also each student brings their own network and interests as well. So adding those.
That's excellent. There's another question Ulfa asked for everybody, essentially, is, and maybe we can focus really on the MA, although Siri is also going to be experiencing kind of a one-year journey with us given the dual, but given the intensity of the one-year program, how do you effectively balance core courses, electives, and engagement with Columbia centers and resources to make the most out of your experience? That's a great question. I've heard students describe Columbia as like drinking from a fire hydrant, just in terms of the sheer number of activities that you're able to engage in and being shared with through a variety of resources like our Wednesday Weekly. Maybe if we could maybe not a climate finance, just to give somebody another voice on the panel. Maybe Yuluo, do you want to share like kind of how do you balance everything going on in terms of this kind of one-year journey?
Yes, of course. So I think it's definitely an intense year. So I think being intentional with your time is really important. For me, I didn't come from a science background. I studied economics during my undergrad. So the first semester is very challenging. So also given that there's a dynamics, which is for like a physics course. So firstly, I treated that as my priority. I spent a lot of time and study like the core coursework, like adaptation, mitigation course, and also the dynamics. And at the same time, I choose elective that align closely with my long-term interests. So they complemented, like rather than distracted from my focus. And in terms of the Columbia broader resources, as you mentioned, there are like, sorry, there are like Wednesday Weekly. There are wide ranges of events and also like skill seminars and career fair. And I try to prioritize events that are directly relevant to my trajectory, whether that's like climate risk advisory, infrastructure, or finance. And I think the key is to see it as an integrated ecosystem. If your classes, electives, and events are all reinforced like in the same direction, it feels much more manageable and like much more impactful. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you for that. There was another question Ulfa asked that was a little bit more climate finance specific. And again, I want to acknowledge there's quite a few climate finance admitted students on this call. So maybe if I could pivot back to Laura and Peter on this, but it's the idea of navigating core Columbia Business School courses, which are everything is challenging at the climate. If you want to come to Columbia University, you want a challenge. But specifically, both of you did not come necessarily from traditional academic finance backgrounds. Um, how was it navigating those courses? Did you feel well resourced? Do you have any suggestions maybe for students with knowledge gaps before joining the program?
Yeah, I'll speak to this. I think Peter actually had more finance experience than I did. I hadn't had any. Finance is a skill. You'll learn it. It's hard. But put in the hours and it will make sense. And what I've found is even from completely not even like very it's not calculus, it's addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. Like you'll figure it out. But what has been happening, I can tell over this program, is that it is starting to develop a framework of what financing is and in more of like a way to think. So yeah, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's hard, but you'll figure it out.
The other really quick thing that I'll add is at this point, there is a lot of online material, Wall Street Prep, LinkedIn Learning,
Yeah.
a variety of other resources that students certainly can access before, and I would recommend, to be honest, accessing before getting to the program because things pick up in terms of pace, and it's helpful to have a little bit of like foundational understanding going into it. But I think in the age of AI and sort of democratized education online, I think that there are a lot of tools at your disposal.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Um, some other questions around adjusting to New York and coursework, especially for for international students as well. Does anybody, for our international students on the call, does anybody want to talk about kind of their transition to New York City and what that experience has been like and how they're able to really fully engage and take advantage of the city?
Yeah, I can go with that.
Go for it.
So, it's my answer will be more like answering to the previous question as well. So, of course, the past for 1 year was quite intense, and the pace is fast, because you have to balance the requirement, electives, recruiting, and everything happening around campus. But like for this question, like we are here in New York. And for example, during the climate week in NYC, many of our professors are actively encouraging us to participate into those events and sometimes even structure assignment around it. So like attending, we are actually required to attend those external panels, like policy briefings or even the industry discussions. So rather than just treating those events as an extracurricular, they become extension of a classroom. You are hearing investors, policymakers, scientists, and corporate leaders speaking about the same issue you are studying, but in real time. So that makes the learning much deeper instead of reading about like climate finance or adaptation governance abstractly. You see how decisions are negotiated and how capital moves and where the friction exists. And especially at the second half of the year, every year we have a COP. So this year is last year was a COP 30, and we also have a bunch of like panelists from Brazil. They are sharing some climate stories over there, like how they treated the food waste and how they are like trying to solve the issue for the food inequality. Yeah, so absolutely taking advantage of New York City, and even as an international student like me, take your initiative to know who you are and what you really want to do, and you will have the chance to know who will be the person you can reach out to, or if not, just ask anyone in the climate school, like ask Alfred, and he's a great resources. And anyone, we have like career advisor. So every opportunity is open for you.
Excellent. Thank you for that. Another question is kind of around what does your typical week look like as a full-time student? Are any of you involved in research projects, part-time jobs? How are you organizing your study schedule? Does anybody want to tackle that? Kind of what does a typical week look like as a full-time graduate student at Columbia Climate School? Should I put Wamuyu? Can I put you on the spot? Sorry, tag you're
That's
it. I know.
okay. So I think the first semester had less flexibility just because of all the core courses. So, I had class, I think, every day. And yeah, so that was kind of already set. How I typically structured my week is that I personally do not like to do weekend work. So Monday to Friday would be intense, especially in the first semester. There was a lot of group work, I think, for almost every single course. So in between individual assignments, you do need to meet with your groups. And then, as Siri mentioned, there's also just a lot of programming. So, every week you're probably going to a talk or a panel or something that's a bit more like professional or career development focused. And then, of course, there's the social stuff. So, the climate school, and Laura is one of our leaders in this. Has a lot of like social gatherings, social events. So it was a mix of academic, which was maybe 80%, and then professional development, social. There's also a lot of in the fall, which will be your first semester, as Siri mentioned, there's a lot of programming in the city as well as at Columbia. And so a lot of just things, whether within the campus or around the city that you could go to, Climate Week, UN General Assembly. So many people are in town. And I feel like I was kind of bouncing in between class, the library, group project, career talk, climate talk, back to the library, back to lecture. So in the course of a week, you're definitely there's a lot to keep you busy. I still found it because I'm kind of like, I guess, a bit of an experienced student. I didn't find it as hard as being in the workforce. So yes, it's fast paced, but to me it's still easier and I guess more enjoyable than being at work. Yeah.
Thank you, Wamuyu. There was another question. This is a broad question. Any of you can answer, as I believe the majority of you, actually all of you, would have relocated to New York City definitively. What was it like finding the ever so dynamic journey of finding housing? I'm assuming most of you are off campus. If any are on, feel free to share, or living in Columbia housing, I should say. Does anybody want to share kind of tips and strategies around New York City housing? My one advice is you never plan that far ahead. New York City housing is quick and dynamic. It's not something that you do like, oh, let me in June secure my apartment for an August move, and that's not typical. But does anybody have any advice how they approached it? Actually, Peter did not forgive me. Peter, you were already here. I'm sorry. Yeah. No. Buckle up. Is that the piece of advice? Yeah.
I would give it I would give yourself 6 weeks and probably me expect to throw out a dozen applications and then you'll get a spot. Um yeah,
The
it's not going to be perfect, but there are plenty of places that open up.
really practical tip as well, do a bit of research ahead of time if you're going to live off campus. I can't speak to on-campus housing, but off-campus housing, there's sort of a requisite set of documents that you need in order to rent an apartment in New York that's longer than basically anywhere else in the US. So do a little bit of research ahead of time to make sure you've got your documents all in order so you can see a place and then just send them off to the realtor right afterwards.
Oh, sorry. And then just first time living in New York, don't live live close to the subway stations that get you to Columbia. It is way better than living in like a maybe trendier neighborhood. Be by the subway.
Yeah, good point.
Maybe
S-
I don't have advice because I moved in with my partner who was in New York, but I would also say living kind of further from campus can also be really rewarding. I live in Brooklyn, and yes, it's a long commute, but I also like the kind of separation of school and home. And yeah, I mean, it's a trade-off, right? You get to explore a different borough, a different part of the city, and you do have to trade off convenience and proximity to campus. So, I mean, weigh your options and see what you value as well.
I want to just note there are many questions around careers, and of course, our current students are going to have general experiences at this point in time. We do have a dedicated career session that's going to be occurring in the coming weeks, led by Mindy Levinson and Gerald Contiago, our fearless leaders on the career management team. They are very self-described. They describe it themselves, but I've seen them in action with students. Very white glove, very hands-on, very one-on-one appointment driven. But I think that you should absolutely, for many of the career questions that I'm seeing coming in, by all means, you should absolutely attend that session. Ask them the hard-hitting questions. They're also going to be sharing some hard career data for the class of 2025 MA Climate Society students during that session. So please make sure to register for that. And if I could ask my colleague, either Kayla Vogel or Damaris Diaz, to paste in the chat the admitted student events. That way students can register for that career event particularly. Please take advantage of that. Another, let's see here. I got lost in the sauce, guys, as I was going on about that. Is there any questions that you guys saw that would be helpful for the group, maybe in the Q&A? As a call out. Is anybody doing research right now? Interesting question in the immediacy. There are students that engage in research. We have a
Yeah,
student. Yeah, go for it, Peter.
Alfred, I can jump in. I'm sort of conducting independent research with another one of the climate finance cohort members. Um, that said, there are like a bevy of ways to get plugged into research opportunities at Columbia, whether it's through a center like the Center on Sustainable Investment, or SEPA has a couple of relevant research centers as well. And then there are a number of grants that are historically awarded in the fall semester for those that are really interested in doing something that might require a little bit of research support. Um, and then lastly, faculty are obviously conducting research themselves and typically welcome a couple of students to help them throughout the year. And I I maybe can just say there are a variety of ways to get involved, and it's not super rare to hear that someone is undertaking some research. So if that's your speed, and if you want to really use your time at Columbia to kind of push forward in that respect, there will be opportunities for you to do so.
Siri, I see your hand. Go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, definitely take a time to look up the Lamont campus. If you are coming to a campus day, you are definitely going to be there. Likely, I don't know if this year we will arrange that. I
100%.
do.
Yeah.
All right. So 100%. That would be great. Awesome. You definitely going to look it up and have a look of it. The campus is awesome, and every faculties there, they are doing research. They have a PhD. They have even a postdoc program there. And you can reach out to some professor. And I personally is currently doing independent research on negative ecological like impact from solar farms. But a bunch of my friends, I know like maybe Antonio, maybe like Selena, they are all like working with professors in Lamont. So that will be opportunities for you to look up as a climate school student.
Absolutely. Yeah, Siri's referring to Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory, which is an incredible campus within Columbia Climate School. I think it's a huge factor that sets us apart from perhaps other, if you're looking at other environmental schools. Don't know why you would, but Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory is definitely incredible resource. And if you've already heard me, you probably have heard like when we talk about kind of the history of the climate school and Columbia University, we've been in the climate space for decades. And in fact, Lamont, a faculty member there in the 1970s, is the first academic to coin the term global warming. So Lamont has a long-standing history in the climate space and some incredible research opportunities. Another question that came in relates to this is an interesting question. You know, we're in dynamic times right now. I guess that's the best way we can say it. When you're thinking about climate science and climate change in general, the question is under political. Do you ever fear administrative pressures from your studies or speaking out? That's interesting. Like, meaning how do you think of climate when you're studying it? It shouldn't be, I would say it should not be a political issue. It should be a challenge that you're seeking opportunities in. But does anybody want to take that on when they think about climate? Who, anyway, oh, should I do it? Should I do a tag you're it? No, you're going to say, don't do it to me, Alfred. You know who I'm going to, no, should I? Should I? Anybody? Laura? Do
Sure.
it,
Okay,
Laura.
yeah.
Yeah.
It will make you a better communicator. You'll learn your audience if you're talking to someone who is very interested in economic growth. You'll be able to communicate climate change through that lens. If you're talking to someone who's interested in equity, you'll be able to talk about climate change through that lens. Um, I think it's it's definitely a tough time, but you look at how finance is flowing and how progress is still being made. I've heard it be put that we've gone from green washing to now green hushing, where people are still doing all the same practices for sustainability. They just might not be talking about it for the next couple of years, and then in a couple of years, we're going to get the marketing around it again.
That's great. No, that's great. And thank you, Laura, and thank you to the commenter who wanted to clarify. So I really appreciate it. You know, a question I like to end with, and we're coming to a wrap up, so I want to hear each one of your voices. But Guy asked a very similar question. Kind of what's piece of advice you would give to yourself if you were to start over? And what's advice that you would give, if I could just add, to any of these admitted students as they're exploring Columbia Climate School? What's that one takeaway, or maybe multiple takeaways that you'd want to give? And maybe if we could start with Suri.
Me? Well, I mean, that's a really good question because I actually thought about this a lot because, like, first of all, I was thinking maybe start a relationship building earlier because in this past in the past year, I find it really hard to get a chance to social. We do have a bunch of social events, or even in the student cohort, we will organize some event ourselves. But for me, because I'm currently like trying to figure out a way to make the nature-based solution happen here in the US. So this kind of research takes a lot of time for me. So I wish sometimes I should like start a relationship building earlier, or even beforehand. I should realize who like what kind of girl I want to be or who I am. So in the future, if I want to do this, who should I reach out to? Be clear. In those programs, what will be your takeaway? What you expect to take away, and then try to figure out a way how to reach that point. That will help you to like be that will be helpful for you to be more effective when you are in the program. No matter it's social to like making friends or networking for the job or doing some research or yeah, I guess that's my advice to network more frequently to myself.
Thanks, Suri. How about Wamuyu? What is your advice for a student entering this program or thinking about entering it?
I think for me, I wish I had started thinking about what courses, like part of the reason I took the MA program is because there's kind of a build your build your own experience type opportunity because there's a lot of room for electives, and especially in the spring and the summer. And so I think for me, I wish I'd started thinking about kind of what courses do I want to take in the spring and summer, and how do those set me up for a career after that. It was kind of at the back of my mind, but I think I wish I'd been thinking about it a bit more intentionally, because there's so many incredible courses, and especially in the spring and the summer, you can cross-register and so on. So yeah, just start thinking about what do you want to do after this degree, and then that'll also inform kind of the networks that you'll be signed up to, the professors who you'll be invested in building relationships with, as well as like the courses that you'll be taking when you can pick your own courses.
Excellent. And Yulo, what's some advice that you would give to students? And before actually you answer, I just want to note there was a couple emails also or questions about transitioning with family members to New York City, or having a family while in the program. If you send us a direct email, we're happy to connect you with current students who might have families and have navigated that journey. So feel free to send an email to the admissions inbox. Forgive me, Yulo. Go ahead. Kind of your
Yeah.
piece of advice.
I strongly agree with Wamuyu because my biggest piece of advice would also be to think early about your trajectory, because for both of like the MA in climate society and for climate finance, it's a 1 year program, so it's very short. And also climate is an incredibly broad field. You can go with science, like adaptation, finance, mitigation policy, analytics, and more. And so it's strategically that you need to think of advance of like which kind of courses you want to take and which kind of career path you want to choose. So because the program offers so much flexibility, it's important to plan ahead and choose like electives strategically. And I think also it's important to use the Columbia resources wisely. For example, to take advantage of events like Climate Week and other like practitioner seminars, and also talk to career management team. And I think some of the most valuable insights come from like hearing directly from people working in the field. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. And then Peter.
Yep. For me, it's a couple things. One, there are so many opportunities and ways to get plugged in at Columbia, it can be almost overwhelming. And so trying to be intentional and prioritizing a couple of meaningful engagements that you can go deep in versus spreading yourself really thin. The other thing is like being proactive in basically all ways. If there's a skill you want to learn, then like figure out what resources are available online, what professors are doing research in that area, et cetera. Like I like the way Wamuyu described it as sort of like a build your own type of experience. It really is. And so um, I would just kind of keep that in mind as you're coming in.
Excellent. And then I think Laura, I didn't ask yet, right? Or did I?
No notes. This year's been perfect. No. Um, no, echoing, I kind of have a different point of view. Give yourself time to be open-minded and be surprised, at least for the first half of the program.
Yeah. Yeah. Excellent. Um, did I ask everybody? I did, right? I didn't miss anybody, did I? Okay, good.
Um,
Oh no,
well,
no. Oh, Siri,
I
go
mean,
for it. Sorry.
yeah. One thing I just want to add on, because recently people might just notice the news, what's happening this week. It's a very tough time for us. So as international student, I understand people will have concern for that. Uh, just like everybody said, have your own plan, like have your like, plan ahead of time. So just focus on your stuff because you don't want like rule what you have earned, and you have to having a standing point in the society to to be that influential guy to intervene the such a thing. So first of all, be careful, just do your thing, and later on, you'll find a chance to help others. So this is always a place you can having friends, and we care about each other, we support each other. But no matter what happens, be calm and be mature. Um, don't take it to or irrational, right?
Yeah, we can just echo that Columbia Climate School cares deeply about for our international community, and we have many, many resources, including through the International Students and Scholars Office. If you do have any questions or concerns about visas or studying here in the United States, this is a global community at the university. You can see also through just initially in our Zoom call just how diverse a learning community the climate school attracts. But there are many resources here, and I appreciate that note, Siri, for the admitted students, especially international students that might be seeing information in the news. So I want to just end on noting and highlighting we have many upcoming admitted student events coming down the pipeline. So first off, for those of you in the MA Climate and Society program, please register for our dedicated session. Lisa Dale, the faculty director who also teaches climate adaptation, will be hosting that event. That's this Friday, March 6th at noon. Then we will have the MS in Climate dedicated session that will be occurring on Tuesday, March 10th. At noon, both Professor Ming-Fong Ting and Professor Jason Smurden will be on those calls. We will also have representatives from financial aid on all of these dedicated program-specific sessions. We will also have a member of the career management team joining. Then we have another current student panel. I definitely recommend registering for the second current student panel on March 23rd. You'll hear some additional voices at Columbia Climate School. I mentioned earlier I gave a plug to the Climate Careers and Professional Development session that's going to be hosted on March 26th. All of you should be joining that, especially those of you asking career questions and advice. And then I also want to highlight on March 19th is the standalone MS in Climate Finance session. Lisa Sachs will be on that. And then we also have another session, Professor Lisa Sachs. This will be the second year she does one of these kind of fun, we call it a coffee chat, where she's on call and able to answer any and all questions. It's a truly casual 1 hour Zoom session where you can just ask her as many questions as you like. She'll be available on Friday, March 27th at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And then finally, I want to plug 2 events in New York that are occurring. Number one is we're doing this for the first time. So many students wanted to know if they can connect with alumni. So we're doing an alumni welcome reception where we have alumni mixing with admitted students. That's going to be on Thursday, March 12th at 5:30 p.m. My colleague Kayla Vogel did a champion job of organizing that in short order. And then finally, we have Columbia Climate School Admitted Student Day, which Suri highlighted with the Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory visit. If you have not registered for Friday, March 13th yet, what are you doing? You got to register for it. You got to see Columbia University live and in the flesh, So I hope you are able to make it. The conversation continues. And then a final huge shout out and thank you to our current students for making yourselves available and sharing your experiences in the program. We truly in the Office of Admissions value the time that you give back. So thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.